Hey everybody, welcome to Olympic Minds, Leaders Beyond Limits. This is a podcast for the leaders of leaders, the visionary of visionaries, for those leaders who want to move beyond mediocrity into mastery and who want to go from success to significance. This is not a theory-based podcast. This podcast is based on the wisdom of leaders who have been in the arena for a long time. So my name is Sherry Winn, your podcast host. I'm a two-time Olympian, national championship basketball coach. And for the last 12, 13 years now, I've been the CEO of the Winning Leadership Company and have authored 5 books on leadership. Today's guest is Brian Allen. I am so thrilled to meet Brian, for you guys to meet Brian. And here's why I'm thrilled for that, because he's a crusader for every good cause. This is a guy that lives through values and integrity. He's a guy that really believes in doing good. And so when he's leading from values and principles. He's leading from a place of the heart and the mind. And so I'm going to let Brian tell you a little bit more about himself. So Brian, why don't you share with us, the titles, like I looked at your LinkedIn, it's like 3 or 4 titles you're currently doing today, things you're doing today. And let us know a little bit more about yourself so that we can have a great idea of why you know what you know.
Okay, well, Sherry, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited about it. I have great respect for you and the great work you do, and I've read your books and I love them, and they've helped shape me as a leader, which I really appreciate. And, you can always learn more, and that's one of the things that I think has been a hallmark of my life, is I've tried to be a lifelong learner and always trying to pick up good and new information. And I think you're also right. I'm always a champion for a good cause, and I have a hard time saying no to a good cause. So right now I will tell you that I do have my fingers in a couple of things. I'm the co-founder of a company called Optimized Outcome Solutions that provides patient education to people who are preparing for or recovering from surgery, and also recovering from major injuries. And this is something that I've had a real passion about for a number of years. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is in a minute. I do also do government affairs for a company called Enlight. I do work on regulatory and legislative issues in the workers' comp space around the country for them. And I also have my own consulting company, which is called Capitol Hill Advisors, which does some lobbying on healthcare issues in Utah and also municipal issues. So pretty busy for sure. Other things that I do, I'm on the Utah Advisory Commission of the Civil Rights Commission, and I also do a lot of volunteer work and really around music and the arts. I'm a former opera singer, so it's something I love to do.
Wow.
I have I was never like a big star or anything like that. It was just small stuff, but it was a lot of fun. Did a lot of musical theater around here locally. But it's something that I have a great passion for. So I do a lot of volunteering in the arts, and then I am a former member of the Utah legislature, so I've had some political experience. I was also a chair of our Utah State Charter School Board for a number of years. It was an appointment by the governor, so I've been leadership positions there. I've been on national nonprofit boards, local nonprofit boards, so I've had a lot of experience in leading organizations or helping to lead organizations, and I just have a great passion for the things I do. I generally find a cause, fall in love with it, and try to help out everywhere I can.
Wow. You just made me tired, all the things that you do. It's like how can somebody fit all that in a day? Like, you're thinking, oh my gosh, like he's got all these things that he does. But what I want to ask you about, though, is you talked first about the passion that you had for this company that you co-founded, the Optimized Outcome Solutions. So tell us about, what developed that passion for that, why you decided that you could be an advocate or help to those people who've had like major illness or a major injury. Where did that come from?
Well, one of the things, I've always kind of been a change agent. So I've always looked for ways to make things better. And, I've been lobbying workers' comp issues around the country for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I'd run into situations where injured workers got hurt, people got hurt, should have gotten better, but never did. Mm-hmm. And I was curious about why that is. I mean, you should be able to get better. Your body is a remarkable organism. It should heal. And I just never could figure out why people don't heal. And so I started digging into it, and I started doing a lot of interviews with people about, why is it that things happen the way they do, and why is it that some people get hurt and never go back to work?
Right.
And it really bothered me because there wasn't any really concrete answer. And then a friend of mine I've been friends with for a number of years was in an automobile accident related to his job and broke his back. And he's a former screenwriter. He's written a couple of books, and we've worked on a couple of projects together. But anyway, he was in his quest to try to figure out, how to help himself get well. He found out there weren't a lot of good answers out there. I mean, there's, you can Google stuff, and primarily most of the stuff you Google, they're just trying to sell you something. And so there wasn't really great advice. And so he did a lot of research, started talking to doctors, talking to other patients. And he wrote a book called The Optimized Patient. And what we found in his work, and I started helping him with it, that when people get hurt and they start worrying about where their life is going to end up, it's not uncommon for them to slip into a mindset of, I'm just never going to get better. And pretty soon they slip into that long enough and they don't get well. We also found out in talking with doctors that most people are malnourished. Not that they're starving, but they haven't been eating the right kinds of food to help their body heal. So they go into surgery, and one surgeon told us, he says, when I cut somebody open that hasn't been eating well, they have their tissue looks like a smoker's tissue. It's just not, it's not nutrient rich. And so it's going to be very, very difficult for them to recover. And then also people don't do the right kinds of things as far as getting their bodies moving again after an injury or surgery. And sometimes they do too little, and sometimes they do too much. I mean, we had a situation where someone had a major knee surgery, didn't do any physical therapy, and pretty soon their knees locked up and they've got to go in and get it unlocked, and then the same thing happened again. We also had another individual who was a power lifter, and he had to have a cage put in his to support his back. And after about a month, his cage is dislodged, and the doctor couldn't figure it out. So he refixed it, and about a month later, the cage is dislodged again. And they started talking to him about, we started talking, well, what's going on? He goes, well, I just started lifting. Well, it wasn't healed yet. So every time he started lifting, it dislodged the cage. And so so it's just really helping people understand how to manage their recovery in a way that makes sense. So get your head in the right place, eat the right kind of food, make sure you're getting proper physical activity, and also making sure you get proper rest. One of the things that also is overlooked in recovery is getting good rest, not opioid-induced rest, not rest where you're sitting around watching Dr. Phil and eating a bag of Cheetos, but rest where you're actually getting a good 7 to 8 hours of sleep in the evening and at nighttime when your body's programmed to sleep. And so we just help coach people on that. And as we have, our coaches are all peer-to-peer, people who've been injured and recovered, so they're people who know what they're doing. We have celebrity coaches. We actually, the late Bill Walton, before he passed away, he's had 39 orthopedic surgeries. He recorded a lot of video for us. I have a guy named Nathan Corey, who was an MMA fighter who broke his back in the ring, rehabbed, and went back and fought in the ring after after having an implant placed in his back. So people like that. And then just some regular people. We have Shannon Barkey, who's a former Olympic skier, and a guy named Noah Galloway, who was an Iraqi war vet who lost an arm and a leg. And literally, he wanted to stop living. Yeah. But he figured out, he had enough people around him. He got himself up off the couch and became a fitness guru, was on the cover of Men's Health, and was on Dancing with the Stars. Wow. It's amazing if you put your mind to something, it's amazing what you can do and how you can recover. And even if you're missing an arm and a leg, as in Noah's case, you can still build a good life for yourself. Yeah.
Well, that's what I call the Olympic level mindset. So what you're talking about right now are people who have gone through the ringer. They can call it the dark night of the soul. You can call it whatever you want to. And Brian, most of us are going to have some experience in that arena. And then how do you get through it? And so one of the things you said was the mindset. And I don't know if we talked about this before, but I developed chronic pain when I was 35. I went to 17 different medical professionals, had every test known to mankind. They're like, we don't know. And they started thinking I was crazy. I'm like, no, the pain is real. Like, look, I'm a former Olympian. I love to move. I can't move. And they're trying to tell me that it's like upstairs. Like, no. And so I understand that darkness. I understand that mindset that said, I'm not ever going to get better. This is who I'm going to be. I would cry as I watch somebody, like I'd be riding the car, I'd see somebody riding a bicycle, and I go, I'm never going to be able to do that. I cry. Or I'd see somebody running, I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do that. I cry. And so the darkness of that became really dark. I mean, that depression, that loneliness of thinking nobody else understands you, and then the doctors not having an answer. And so, it was a long journey. But part of that journey was turning the mindset around to the belief system that all things are possible, that the only thing that is impossible is when you believe it is not possible. Right. And really start framing that there is a way out of this, even if 17 different medical professionals don't know it, doesn't mean there's not a way out. It just means that they don't know the way out. And so it was a very long journey, but I was able to recover from that. And so, first of all, thank you for doing that. For really being a person who understands that there is a way forward and believing in that so much that you created a company around it. And then finding the people that believe the same way, right? Because ultimately it is the mindset. Yes, the nutrition is important, the rest is important, the how do I recover is important, but it's the mindset that gets you there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's critical in every part of your life. It's not just injury recovery. I mean, mindset. I mean, as a leader, shaping the mindset of your team is really, really critically important.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a mindset.
How do you delve into that? So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's uncover that. Your mindset, right? You have to have the right mindset so that you can then give your team the right mindset. So you can't give what you don't have. You have to first have it. So how did you develop the right mindset so that you could gift it to your team?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have to believe in the program process or whatever it is, right? I mean, or the product. If I'm not believing in it, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to help cheerlead other people into believing in it as well. And so, I have to first make sure that if I'm behind something, I'm really behind it, and it's something that I truly believe in. Mm-hmm. And I found that in my lobbying work, in my, if I don't believe in something, it's very, very hard to go out and sell it to someone else. You just can't do it. And at least I can't. I mean, I guess if you're very gifted, maybe you can. I can't. I mean, I have to really believe in something to get behind it. So that's part of it. And then instilling that in your team. Part of that is just maintaining that positive attitude and that positive, mental focus, and also helping them come to know what you know about the product, service, or process, whatever it is that you're trying to get them to buy into. Helping them see the value and wisdom. And I've managed, a number of situations where there was pretty significant change needing to be done. Mm-hmm. And getting people to change is hard. Most people are very comfortable with the status quo. I remember when I ran for office, people would always say to me, well, we want you to always tell us the truth, and we want you to go in there and make change, make things happen. and actually what I found out is they don't really want either of those things. No. They don't really want to know the truth. The truth is sometimes very ugly. And the other thing is they don't like change. They want to just kind of things to stay where they are because that's where they know and what they're comfortable with. Right. But it's also true in organizations. Yeah. I mean, I remember that I was CEO of a company, and we were moving from a paper system to a computer system. Mm-hmm. And I had one manager who was like, I will never, ever give up my paper files. It's never going to happen. And she had all these paper files, filing cabinets around her desk. And we put this beautiful PC on her desk, never touched it. And finally, one night after everybody had left, me and my assistant went in and we cleaned out all the files, took them all away. Everything's on the computer, and all that was left was this computer sitting on her desk. And she came in the next morning and nearly had a heart attack, but I got her to try it.
Yeah.
And what ultimately happened with her is she fell in love with it. And she said, I could never go back. Yeah. She says, I could never understand why. I mean, she said, I'm so sorry I was so resistant. I could never, ever go back now to the old way because this way is so much faster, mm-hmm. so much more efficient. But it's getting them over the fear of the change.
Right.
And that's really just part of being, you got to be a little persistent. You got to be very positive. And you have to demonstrate that you don't have the fear and that you've done it. And it's really hard to ask people to do something you're not willing to do yourself. And so you've got to make sure they understand you are willing to do it and you have done it in many cases. Right. And that really is, and then sometimes just in her case, we had to force the issue.
Right. Well, I love the idea of the positive mindset, right? I mean, you have to have that positive mindset. And so there's many people who do not have positive mindsets. I mean, I meet them every day, right? They start with, I say, how's your day? Oh man, there's just, they start listing off all the things that, have not gone right in the day. I'm like, Or, this is going to be like new challenge. This is going to be really hard. It's going to be the change. It's going to be, I can't do it. It's too hard. I'll never figure out the way to go for, like, all those things happen. Right. And so the question is like, how did you train yourself to be positive? Because I know if you have it, you can give it, right? So how did you train yourself into that? Like for me, I knew I was raised by pessimists. I didn't even know I was raised by pessimists. Like I did not know that, but I was. And so, because everything was going to be the worst case scenario. I didn't know I had that until later in life. When I started reading books, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's me. And I don't want to be that way. I want to be more positive. So was it something you were born with? Did your parents teach you? Did you read books? How did you learn to be this positive, agent of change?
Interestingly, I wasn't born with it. I used to think I was a Ziggy, right? The guy that had a rain cloud following around everywhere he went, the cartoon character. And I kind of always felt like that as a child growing up. I was always a little bit, uncertain about my future and really kind of an introvert, if you'd never know that now, but I was really kind of fearful. And at one point in time, I went into law enforcement. This is another one of my many careers I've had. And now law enforcement's a job that could easily make you very pessimistic. I mean, you see a lot of ugly things. I spent the last 3 years of my, of that, and I spent 7 years, and I spent the last 3 years investigating crimes against women and children. There's nothing that's more heinous and miserable than that, right?
Right.
And you could become very cynical. You could become very depressed. And for whatever reason, I chose to go a different way. And I felt like if I'm talking to these people who've been through a horribly traumatic experience and I'm negative, depressed, pessimistic, how's that going to help them? Mm-mm. And so I have to give them hope, and I have to give them that, this idea that they can overcome this trauma and get through it. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very difficult. And it's some of the most horrendous trauma a person can experience in their life. And so I felt like I had to be positive to build that hope. Mm-hmm. And what I found is that as I built that positivity in myself and built that hope in myself, not only did my life change for the better, and I got empowered to try and do things that I never thought I would try or ever do, but I was also able to help these individuals make those changes in their lives themselves. And weirdly enough, I did the same thing with the perpetrators, the criminals, and many of them changed their lives.
Wow.
Strangely enough. I mean, I've had several people come to me and say, you made a huge difference. If you hadn't said those things to me, I never would have believed I could change. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and it really was, it's not even because I really thought they could change, but you've got to give people hope, and you really can't ever, you don't ever really want to write somebody off completely. You gotta, right. I'm a firm believer in redemption of people coming around and getting to a good place. Mm-hmm. But I also, especially for the victims, I had to inspire in them an idea that their lives could get past this. Right. And many of them did. Not all of them did. Some of them really struggled. Sure. But I tried to help as many as I could, and I could only do that if I was truly positive and hopeful myself. And you have to be. I can't even imagine living in the world that we live in today and not being, hopeful and positive. Right. And honestly, there is so much beauty in the human spirit and what they can accomplish when they're motivated to do that. And the only way you can do that is by being a positive role model yourself. And so you have to, as a leader of any organization, you really do have to be a positive role model. And I've worked with people who weren't. I've had leaders who led me that weren't positive role models, and they were tough to work. I didn't last long because it wasn't my world, right? But I've worked with also some tremendously amazing, mm-hmm. very positive, cool people. Yep. And I want to be that, right? That's the kind of leader I want to be. I want to be the kind of leader and person that inspires others. So I actually learned positivity and hopefulness in probably one of the worst environments you could possibly find it. Not a place you'd expect to find it, but it's just, right. I guess maybe that's just how my brain works. But I wanted to turn that horrible experience into something positive, or at least something hopeful.
Well, you said one word that was really big in that, and you said you chose. You chose to see it differently. You chose to be positive, like it was a choice. And I think that some people think it's not a choice, but it is a choice. Every time that we decide, like we decide to see something differently, then it comes back to us differently. Like what you can't get what you don't give. So you have to be able to, if you're giving it out, you're receiving it at the same time, right? It's that awareness of that. And so learning to be positive, and people literally people don't want to work for you if you're bringing negativity every single day. They just don't want to be around that. I had a Olympic coach who used to call me stupid. I mean, that was his, Shetty, why you stupid? Like, why you stupid? And I'm like, I'm a 4.0 student, right? Like I'm an academic All-American. I'm the valedictorian at college. And this guy's calling me stupid. And unbelievably, which is crazy. Like I look back at it now, I'm like, I started believing him. And so then I started doing stupid things on the court, right? I mean, and then I go, well, I'm stupid. Like, why'd you do that? Oh, I'm stupid. And I just knew at that point, I was like, this is not helpful. I mean, he turned me from this person who was obviously intelligent into behaving like a stupid person. And it's amazing how often that we allow what somebody else tells us to become our truth, right? And so if you're that positive leader, you're giving those people who are listening to you that same opportunity to live in that realm. And if you're a negative leader, you're also giving people the right or the pathway to be negative. And so it's so amazing that you made a choice to be positive. And so when you're exhibiting that choice, I mean, when you're exhibiting the choice, then people know they have a choice. No matter what situation they're in, no matter what's going on around them, they have that choice. So I love the words that you used. You chose that pathway. So what was the biggest key that you learned as a leader that's really helped the most people that you've led, right? So being positive is one. What else have you learned that's helped the people that you've led to get going the right direction?
Well, I think too, I think one of the things that it was for me was really helping people understand the importance of work-life balance and making sure that they were, keeping themselves whole, socially, that they weren't. I'll tell you, I was CEO of a large insurance agency, and I had a salesperson who worked for me, and she came to me one day in tears. She says, I can't pay my bills. I need a raise. I'm like, well, you work on commission. It's not like the only raise you get, you got to sell more business. And I says, well, let me try to help you. And so I started working with her, and she would come in at, 8 or 9 in the morning, and she'd work till 7 or 8 at night. And she was doing a lot of busy work, but not really selling business. And then she started stressing over, I'm not spending enough time with my family. And that started impacting her performance even more. So she was in this sort of what I call a death spiral. She was like, she had all this guilt about not being with her kids. And I finally sat her down one day and I said, you are very gifted and talented. Mm-hmm. But your life is out of whack. You need to, there's some things you need to do. One is you need to take some of this paperwork that you're doing that's not essential to a sales process and hand it off to your assistant and trust them to do it. You have to trust the people around you have to be able to delegate to them and trust that and so trust in your team. And the other thing is, if you're here after 6 o'clock at night and I come into the office, I'm going to fire you. You need to be home with your family. You need to have that time with your family because you are so emotionally withdrawn because of this guilt about your family that you can't perform in your job. Mm-hmm. So we made these changes. We did some things for her. And within about 3 months, she had doubled her sales goals. And because she had that, she took the guilt monkey off her back.
Yep.
And it freed her up, and it freed her brain up to think creatively. And she wasn't burdened by some of this paperwork that she just couldn't let go of. And she learned to trust her staff. And the more stuff that she was able to pass off to her assistant, the more she was able to, produce new business. And she actually became very, very successful over time. I mean, I left the company, 6 or 8 months after that, but I got another position. But the last I talked to her, which had been, a few years after I left, she was doing extremely well and super, super happy. Right. Her kids were doing great. Her family was doing great. And it was all about, finding that balance and making sure that you're spending time on the right tasks,
Right.
right reasons.
So beautiful when you talk about work-life balance, because I think that we get lost in, I just gotta work. Like we get like the number of hours I put in is going to equal, what I get back. And that's not true. So number one, understand that's not true. It's spending the right, doing the right things at the right time in the right way is going to get you back. But I also love the fact that you talked about guilt, how guilt impacts your ability to work, right? I mean, if you believe that you're abusing, I'm going to use the word abuse, but you're not giving, your family or your spouse the right time, and you're living in guilt, and you're not giving yourself enough time to go enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy your life, and it's all centered around work, we get a lot of burned out people, especially at the leadership level. Like I've seen people, I talked to somebody yesterday and they were, they wake up at 6. And I said, well, what do you do to fill your cup? Like, what do you do to fill your cup? Because she starts work at 6 and she doesn't end until 8. And I said, she goes, well, I spend like a minute watching the sunrise. I'm like, a minute. And so I'm like, this person's on the route to burnout, right? She's on the route to burnout. I mean, she's got all kinds of accomplishments, all kinds of titles, all kinds of honors. And I just kept thinking to myself, she's on the way to burnout, because you have to find that place of stepping away and giving yourself the permission to enjoy life.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I do, and you heard what I do at the beginning of the podcast. I mean, I'm a busy guy, right? But I have a friend that we have a 9-hole meeting every week. We go out to a golf course somewhere, and that's kind of my, sort of my therapy for myself. Mm-hmm. I have 17 grandkids. They're all involved in various sporting activities. Mm-hmm. I go to soccer games. I go to baseball games. I go to football games. I go to tennis matches. And I can't get to all of them, obviously, because there's one every single night, and sometimes right. 2 or 3 a night, right? But I get to as many as I can, and I will take the time to do that, because that's time with my family. It's time supporting my grandkids, right. And building in them this notion that what they are doing is special, what they're doing matters, and what they are doing matters to me enough that I'll take time out of my schedule to go be with them. And it's also a time I can spend with my wife. So it's a great rest. Right. Respite from the workday. Now, that doesn't mean I don't come home and sit down at my computer sometimes at 8:00 at night and work for another hour or two. I sometimes do that, but I still have that break. I still have that time, and that's focused time for my family. Right. And it makes a huge difference. And it seems, I sometimes think, oh my gosh, this is like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. But once I get away from it and get into it, and I'm, cheering the kids on, trying not to yell at the refs, I'm having, you know how it is, Coach. I know. Try not to yell. Yeah. I have not been yellow carded yet, but I sure could happen. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I get into it, and then I forget about, the pressures of work. And so it actually cleanses your mind a little bit. It helps you think a little more clearly. And I've had some great, intuition when I've been in those moments where I'm out on the golf course or sitting in the stands, and all of a sudden this thought will come to me, well, you should try this. Yeah. It's like, wow, that is a great, piece of inspiration that came to me while I was sitting in this completely unrelated event, just enjoying myself.
I absolutely believe, I believe that what you're saying, like sometimes we need to get away from what we're doing so that our minds can rest and give the opportunity for something new to come in. But I learned this, I was a 2-time Olympian, and I'll never forget the second Olympics we played in, we had a good chance to medal. We had a great chance to medal. Our coach, however, believed that we needed to train harder than anybody else in the world. And so you can imagine we're at the Olympic Games, we're in Seoul, Korea, and the process, you understand the process to get to a practice facility is not just like walk out of your room to a practice facility. It requires, first of all, you have to be at the bus stop 45 minutes ahead of time so they can check your credentials. They look under the bus, right? They've got to get your helicopters with you. They've got to get your security team with you. And so then you get on the bus, and then it took an hour and a half to get to a practice facility. Right? Because you have all these teams in the same place and they all need practice facilities, hour and a half. We'd train for an hour, we'd do the same process coming home, and then we did a second time in the same day. So you can imagine that's 9 hours or so eating up of your day where you're not getting rest, because you're riding a bus that's not restful. When you're waiting for them to check your credentials, whatever, like there was no rest. By the time that we started to play, I can remember how exhausted I was. Like I was really like the thing that I owned that a lot of people didn't. I was very determined. I was very motivated, and I could make my body do things even when I was tired. But then, Brian, there was no way my body was going to do anything. Like I remember trying to warm up, and it literally would not go. And I'm like, come on, you can warm up. It's like, nope, I'm exhausted. I mean, it was like I was trying to run in a jar of peanut butter, and that's when I knew we had trained too hard. And we pushed ourselves to so far beyond what we had to give. There was nothing left to give. And it was a great lesson in remembering that sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is just take a time off. When you're to that point of fatigue and your mind's not working, your body's not working, like you've got to just step away. And to convince people of that that's the best thing you can do is to rest is sometimes extremely difficult. But like you had with the woman you were talking about, that you gave her that permission to get out. In fact, you said, I'm going to fire you. That gave her permission to know that she had done enough, and that giving that time with her family made her feel better. I think that sometimes that as leaders, it's our responsibility, like you mentioned, it's our responsibility to see somebody who's overdoing it and he needs to step away.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes you got to throw them a life preserver. Sometimes you have to let them know you're here and you're here to help, and you've got to, it's so easy when you're in the middle of the morass or quagmire yourself. It's hard to see what's going on around you, and you don't really, you get so accustomed to the chaos that you're in that you don't realize actually sometimes you're even in chaos.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so if somebody from the outside doesn't say, hey, wait a minute, time out, we've got to stop this. And look, this woman was very talented. She was very gifted at what she did, but she got into this cycle of just, unproductivity that not through any fault of her own, it just sort of, slipped, she slipped into it over time. And then the panic and the guilt and all the other stuff that came with, I can't pay my bills, I'm not seeing my family. It just kept continue to just, suck her into this vortex of
Right.
unproductivity, and somebody had to throw in the life preserver to pull her out and let her see what was going on.
Well, I think the best leaders know that balance, the balance between, working hard enough and rest. Like there's a balance. There's a line where you go, okay, you're working too hard or you're not working hard enough. Like that, and they know exactly how to push that, to push the person to do more than they think they can do, and also when to say, time off. Like you got to get time off. You got to go get rest. And so that's a really interesting balance. I had a coach once that I loved, and he would come in and ask the team. Like he'd ask the person who worked the hardest, not necessarily the team, but the person who worked the hardest. He'd go on a scale between 1 and 10, with 10 being, you're extremely fatigued. Where are you? And if that person said, like, I'm at a 5, he goes, okay, we're going to cut practice by an hour. He was so good at knowing that moment. Or, he also knew the moment, like if you weren't going hard enough, he would push you to that next level. And I think that's the genius of a great leader, is knowing exactly who their person is. So my question to you is, how do you know your people at the intimate level? How do you get to know them so that you know when to push and you know when to pull back?
I will tell you, that's one of the challenges I think of leading an organization or leading people, is just really getting to know them. And it varies. I will tell you honestly, I haven't always had great relationships with everyone who worked for me. And partly because they're not, they don't open up, or they're not comfortable opening up. And sometimes I got to know them really, really well. And I've worked with people, 40 years ago that I'm still friends with today.
Wow.
That they're still in my orbit. I still talk to them, occasionally, and they're good people. There's other people, I worked with that, once they left the job, I never saw or spoke to them again. But I think it's important to get to know. And part of it, you have to know a little bit about them personally to really help them professionally. Mm-hmm. Another great example is I had a guy that was a salesman that worked for me, and he was loved by everyone. Everyone loved this guy. He would, his referral sources, the people he worked with, they just they adored this guy. He was a horrible salesman, at least for this product that he was for insurance. But he was super great with, just his personality. People just loved the guy.
Right.
he had 7 kids, and he was making he never even produced enough commission to cover his base. And I worked with him. And finally one day I just went to him and I said, I love you to death. You're a great guy. I says, but I just don't think this is the right fit. We've been going back and forth over this for about a year now, and you just haven't seemed to be able to get over the hump. I said, tell me a little bit about what you would view as your dream job. So this is back in the 90s, and computers were becoming a big thing. And he says, well, I'd really love to work in computers. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I will. I'm gonna give you 90 days and I don't want you doing any work for me. I want you to work for yourself. I want you to go out and find your dream job, because this job isn't going to work. And I know you got 7 kids. I'm not going to fire you because I don't want your kids to starve. But I'm going to give you this time, and I'll pay you. I said, the only thing I ask is when you find the job, let me know so you're not double dipping. I don't want you to take advantage of it.
Right.
I'm already putting my neck out a little bit because I had a board to answer to, and they weren't too happy I did this, but I did it anyway. And so he went out, and within 5 weeks he calls me up and says, hey, I found my dream job. You can stop paying me. So we cut him off that day. And then I really didn't talk to him or see him much. I mean, I never saw him after that. Wondered about him, right? But I never heard anything from him. And then I took some boys down to a wrestling tournament in a place about 40 miles south of where I live. And they wrestlers, they weigh in the morning, and then they go eat because they've starved themselves to make weight. So we weighed them in, and we went to a little fast food place that was by the high school, and so they could eat. And this guy that used to work for me pulls in. He's driving a brand new Escalade. He's got all of his kids and his wife decked out in ski gear. And I said, hey, how you doing? He goes, he says, I've been meaning to call you. He said, I really should have called and thanked you. He says, I have quadrupled my income doing something that I really love.
Wow.
And I thought, and I got a lot of trouble for that, for paying him to find another job. But I will tell you, had I not done that, I don't think he ever would have had that success, because he would have had the pressure of, I got to just take something to feed my family because they're starving if I don't work. And I just couldn't do it. Maybe I'm nutty, but I just couldn't do that to him. But it paid off. I mean, he ended up with his wildly successful career, and he's maintained that success. I think he just recently retired from that job, and he's done super, super well. And I thought, that's part. Sometimes being a good leader is helping people recognize they don't fit. I mean,
absolutely.
That's how you got to. But you have to get to know them. And maybe because I knew him so well, it was hard for me to just cut him loose, and maybe every other company would have just fired him. But I don't know. I knew he had those 7 kids, and I knew his wife couldn't work because she couldn't get a job that paid daycare. I mean, everything. If she had found a job, they'd still be in the hole because daycare for 7 kids is too much, right? So she had to stay home. And so, he was trying to do this all on his own. And I don't know how he did it, honestly,
Well, I think this is a trait of a great leader, though. And I think that a lot of leaders miss this trait, and that is that people are the business. Like sometimes we get so stuck on, what are our outcomes, what are our KPIs, how we scale and how we, all this stuff. And we forget, like, the people that are driving that are like the things that's driving that's called people. And so, this idea that your people are the people that you should first be concerned about. Like, those people are the people you should first be concerned about. I think that's a tenet of great leaders, is that they care about their people in such a way that they want to take care of their people. And whether that, like, maybe your board was mad at you, but for me, like, if I was another employee working for you, here's what I'd been like. I'd be like, oh man, he really cares. Like, this guy, I'm going to work hard for him because he cares. I know that he's going to take care of me. I mean, it's that kind of mentality that shifts. Like, I think a whole culture is that they know that you as a leader, that you deeply care about them as people first, as employees second. So how do you keep showing that? I mean, I know that that's the story was such a wonderful story, but how do you teach people that that's truly, truly, truly the most important thing you can do is make sure that your people know that they're people first and employees second?
I mean, I think part of it is just, I mean, I would, one of the things that I really always try to do is help them grow, in there, but not just professionally, but grow personally.
Mm-hmm.
So if there were classes, if there were service opportunities or whatever that I could help steer them to help them, I would do that. And I told my people all the time, I said, at some point in time, you may want to, spread your wings and go try something new or different. I says, I'm going to be 100% supportive of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my job as leaders to help grow you, not only as a person, but as in your skill set, in your profession. And if I grow your skill set to the point that you become more valuable to someone else, or someone's willing to pay you more money than I can pay you, I get it. I mean, I totally understand that, and that is the risk I take. But it's also something that I feel was charged to do. I mean, I never wanted someone to feel like they were trapped. I always wanted them to know that I'm more than willing to help them grow. I'm more than willing to help them develop as a person, as a human being, and as in their profession. And in some cases, I help people transition within the organization to a different position with a different skill set, different training, different responsibilities. But I've never felt like they were never mine to keep. They were mine to teach, to train, develop, and then. And I honestly gave me great joy when they went out and found something better that was better suited to them, or better for them personally, because I felt like I had a part in that growth and that development. And yet I had to train somebody new. I had to bring somebody else new in, but that was just another opportunity to help grow somebody into a more full life. And so, I mean, maybe it's weird to say that, but I mean, I think that was my job. My job was to help them to thrive, not only as a person, but in their profession. And if that thriving meant they moved on to a different or better position, that's what they should do. I mean, and that's what I should expect them to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's that deep caring, that deep empathy that I think that leaders who have a high emotional intelligence, that's where they come from. And where I learned my lesson, Brian, is in my Olympic career, I'll never forget this, the way that our Team Handball Federation announced the Olympic team. So we had a core of about 24 people who trained year-round together. I mean, this wasn't coming for training in the league. It was like year-round. We knew each other. We were great friends. I mean, we danced together, we drank together, we trained together, all that stuff. And so after, when they had to name the team, remember there's 15 people that are named, so those other 9 were not on the list. And this is the way they did it. And I'll never forget this, because it impacted me to a level that was crazy, because they didn't sit down as we're going along training and sit down with us and evaluate us. They didn't say, here's how you need to improve, here's your weaknesses, here's what you're doing well, here's what you need to do, here's where you're standing. None of that ever happened. So we get in a room, and now you can remember, some people have laid down everything. Like they've stopped their education, they've stopped their careers, they've left their families, they left their spouse, whatever. And we're in this room, and they just read off a list. Here's the 15 people that made it. And one of my teammates literally fell out of her chair, crying, bawling, curled up in a ball, screaming because she didn't make the team. And I will never forget that, because I was like, you could have done this 100 different ways, it would have been better than this. I mean, this was not about all these people who had given up so much to be there, because at the time we weren't getting paid. Like, this is back when we're still amateurs. And I just remember, like, this isn't the way to lead. This isn't the way to do it. And that impacted me so much that, the way that I led was different. And I want to make certain that all of them, that they always felt like they had a really good indication of where they were, what they needed to do different. I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be upfront. I wanted to be transparent, because when a decision was made, they at least knew that it was coming. And so that was the moment I was like, you should care more about your people than this, right? And so when I hear you tell the stories you're telling, I'm thinking, like, you're the guy I would have wanted to work for. You're the guy that I would have given everything. Like, if you were a coach, I would have run through the wall for you. Like, I would have given everything I had for you. And I think that so many times now leaders are saying, why are these people leaving? Or why can't we keep people? Or why are they not engaged? I'm like, it's the it factor. It's the leadership factor. It's the you factor. I can call it the Brian Allen factor. That's the difference. So Brian, if you could leave us with one thing, right? So you've given some great stories. I love the stories you've shared. If you could leave the people here on the podcast with one more golden nugget, what would that golden nugget be?
I think be fearless. Be willing to take chances. Be willing to try new things. I think sometimes we get so fearful of making a mistake that we just never do anything. And I try to see beyond the horizon and see what's out there and know where you need to adapt to win. One of the things that is so we live in a very rapidly changing world with artificial intelligence, technology, with just societal changes. I mean, it's a very rapidly changing world right now, and you've got to learn to look beyond the horizon and see what's coming. Because if you wait for it to be on the horizon, it's going to come at you so fast you're not going to be able to adapt to it. So you've got to be able to be fearless in making those choices and making those changes, even though you're not 100% sure. But sometimes just going with that gut instinct or going with what you think you see over that horizon. And it's not like you have to predict the future, but just look at trends, plot those trends out, but don't plot them out, 2 or 3 years, plot them out 5 to 10 years, and try to figure out what's coming at you. And then adapt your business, adapt your style, adapt whatever it is you're doing, your products, so that you can meet that changing need and changing demand, because it's going to change. I mean, it's not going to stay the same. And, especially now with AI, there's jobs that people are doing now that probably won't be done by people. It's kind of scary, because I'm a huge believer in human interaction and the importance of a human relationship. I think it's what makes our lives rich and full. I don't think, having an attachment to your phone or to an electronic device isn't really helpful, or as an emotionally long-term strategy. But what we still have to anticipate. And then again, in being fearless in making those changes, be mindful of that human factor. Be mindful of the fact that we are still human creatures. We still desire sociality. We still desire that human connection. And, we're not going to see families made up of AI spouses and AI children. There's still going to be human relationships, or we're still going to have to work with people. So we got to make sure we keep those skills sharp. But I would say just be fearless and be bold and charging ahead and embracing the future, and don't be afraid to try something new, because I've done it. I've had great success doing it. I've had some epic failures, and a lot from those. And those are fun. Failure is not a bad thing. It's a learning experience. And
for sure.
And I always harken back to the story about someone asking Thomas Edison, how did you keep going after you failed so many times at building a light bulb? And he says, well, I didn't really fail. He says, I just successfully identified one more thing that didn't work. And so you kind of have to have that mindset and that mentality. Just go forward, fearlessly and boldly and do the things that need to be done.
I love it. So Brian, I'm sure that somebody might have a good question for you, and so there's the best way to reach you through LinkedIn. Is that where or is there somewhere they can reach you?
My email address. I'm welcome to have any email questions come to me. Is fine. That is Brian BRIAN .Allen ALLEN @optimizedoutcome.com.
Oh, thank you. You've been wonderful. You're the leader that leads from the heart and the head, so the heart and the brain. And I think that's where great leaders come. There's a part of you that's got to be logical, and there's a part of you that's got to move from the center of your heart, and you're one of those kind of leaders. So folks out there that are listening, listen, this is the kind of guy that you want to emulate. This is the kind of leader who's wildly successful because he operates from both places. So I invite you to do the same. Please share this with other people that you know it will benefit. And hey, everybody, have a winning day. Take care now.